Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome. We are going to go ahead and start the meeting and call the meeting to order. It is 7 a.m. It is that time. Happy Rotary Thursday. We're going to flip the script a little bit today, and our speaker is going to start first, as I sent in the email, if you didn't get the email. So our speaker had a schedule conflict. She's calling in from Houston, and she has to get on duty in about 30 minutes. So I'm going to turn it over to Tony. She's going to lead us in the invocation, the pledge, and then introduce our guest speaker. So. Please get your breakfast if you haven't gotten your breakfast, and enjoy your meal while our speaker starts.
All right, everyone bow your heads, please. Dear Lord, we are so thankful and grateful for this beautiful day and for the opportunity to gather in friendship and fellowship for your service. Please bless those that are on the front lines and bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies. Thank you. In thy name we pray. Amen. Now for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning. I'm going to put my back to you, or I guess I can stand sideways. I have the honor and privilege of introducing our speaker this morning, Miss April Blackwell. You can't hear me? Can y'all hear me on Zoom?
Yeah, we can hear you.
They can, but y'all can't. So maybe I'll hold it down and speak louder. Y'all may have to turn your volumes down on the computer. Good morning. I have the privilege of introducing our speaker this morning, Miss April Blackwell. She is on Zoom this morning because she is sitting at Mission Control and got called into duty to be on console to fly the ISS. So thank you for making time to talk with us this morning, April. April, since she was about 8 years old, knew that she always wanted to be an astronaut. And when she was about 11, she got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So ever since then, though, she has not let that deter her from her goal of becoming an astronaut. And she continues to strive towards that. She does a lot of advocacy for and outreach for juvenile diabetes. She, in addition to being a pilot for the ISS, she also is a very talented musician. She is a published writer. She publishes articles in health magazines and does a lot of book reviews. And I am very proud of this young lady because in 2012, she joined my family by marrying my nephew. And they live in Houston, like I said, well, actually League City, right out of Houston, and have 2 beautiful kids. And from here, I'm just going to turn it over to April and let her talk more about her goals and how she's going where no other type 1 diabetes has gone before. And good morning, April, and thank you for being here.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. While I'm getting my screen shared here, I just want to say that I think this is the earliest I've ever formally given a presentation, so you might have to bear with me. Anyway, can you see the slides that I have up?
We can.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I am at NASA, but I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about my life with type 1 diabetes. Every day people are diagnosed with this disease. Currently, there's about 3 million Americans that have type 1. About 80 people are diagnosed every day, and approximately 85% of type 1s in America are adults. We do grow up. So even though it's called juvenile diabetes, the majority of the patients are actually adults like me. So it means it's very likely you either already know someone with type 1 or will meet someone in your future, or now you've met me, so you can say you at least know me as a type 1. And my goal in presenting this is to just give you some more tools to ask questions, maybe be a little bit more mindful of someone's treatment, and ultimately become a more vocal advocate for those of us with the disease as far as research and funding. So I think just because Zoom makes it difficult, if we want to hold questions till the end, that would probably be the best. But for the overview, I'm just going to touch on what it means to be a type 1 diabetic, our historical disease management tools, and then talk about some new technology that has come online even since I've been diagnosed about 20 years ago, which is insulin pump therapy and something called a CGM, or continuous glucose monitoring system. But before we can appreciate the technology used to manage type 1, we need to have a basic understanding of the disease itself. So I've tried to really boil this down and make it pretty simple. First of all, it is an autoimmune disease. My body has waged war upon itself, so, lucky me, I guess. The causes are not yet understood, and so that's why research funding is so important for this disease. We can't really understand how to generate a cure or develop a cure until we understand what causes the disease itself. The onset has nothing to do with diet or lifestyle. You may have heard of other types of diabetes. There's actually over 20 different types of diabetes. You've probably heard of type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes, but there's actually so many more. So if you're curious, do a little research of your own. You might find something interesting. There's no prevention for type 1. No one in my family had the disease before. I was 11 years old. I wasn't doing any, sort of drugs or alcohol or any sort of things that could have caused this disease. And probably the most important thing to keep in mind, there's no cure. So, I've been diagnosed over 20 years, which means that I have done probably over 50,000 finger sticks, blood tests. I've used insulin injections probably over 1,000 times, had to put in pump sites probably over 2,500 times, inserted a CGM over 500 times. So there's a lot that goes into managing this disease. It doesn't take any days off. And so I hope that this discussion just equips you with a different perspective of the disease, and you won't have to ask if it's a pager or cell phone that your type 1 friend is carrying anymore. Okay, so basically the whole idea of the disease is it's a feedback loop. So we'll talk about a quote normal person and not diabetic person's body first. So the first thing in the feedback loop is your bloodstream absorbs glucose. That could either be from eating food or the glucose that your body naturally produces. That causes your blood sugar level to increase. Your pancreas is what produces insulin that responds to the blood sugar level rise. And then that ultimately brings your blood sugar level back down to a normal level. And then the whole loop repeats itself. So let's look at how a type 1 diabetic is a little different. In this case, our pancreas no longer produces insulin. So that part of the feedback loop is broken. And we, as the patient, have to basically step in as the pancreas and deliver insulin in very specific amounts in order to stabilize our blood sugar levels. This makes it look very straightforward. I will say it is not at all straightforward. There's hundreds of things that can affect your blood sugar besides food, such as your activity level, your hormones, your stress, even certain medications can impact it, things you wouldn't normally think. So there's so many things that go into managing this disease. All right, so for historical treatment, you've probably seen some of these, at least in commercials. So we have the sort of age-old finger stick there in the bottom left corner. I still carry one of these around in my purse every day. just in case, because you have to have a backup plan. I work at NASA. We always have backup plans. And then you have your syringe, which I started on insulin injections using a syringe just like this one, mixing sort of the old school types of insulin. They were called NPH and regular. So there's definitely some drawbacks to these treatment methods. A blood sugar check like this, while it does give you a number, it doesn't give you any trending information. So it's really just a snapshot in time. And you could be trending either high or low and not really know it. As far as injections go, depending on exactly how your doctor set up your medication regimen, you may have to give several shots a day, or potentially even every time you eat. So if you think about how many shots a day that would be, it could get a little cumbersome. And you also needed to eat at very specific times. I remember in junior high drinking a sunny delight as I walked across campus because I had to have a snack at a very specific time. So if we can land men on the moon, surely we can design some tools and devices to make management of this disease a little easier. So the first thing we'll talk about is an insulin pump. This is actually the specific type of pump I use, but it consists of three main parts, which is the insulin pump itself. This contains a reservoir of insulin, and it has obviously computing capability to figure out how much insulin you need. And there's some other neat things that I'll talk about in the next slide. Then you have a tubing. There are tubeless pumps. Lots of small kids use those, which makes sense. I personally like the tubed just for the convenience of being able to take it off. And then the site is where the insulin actually goes into your body subcutaneously. So I have to change this whole setup out about once every 3 days. So it does require an injection to place the site. There are some downsides. It is a machine, so you always have to have backup available in case the machine breaks. And since this is obviously a piece of electronics, there are strategies for specific activities. If you think about swimming, you can't have this device on while you're swimming, and similar activities. So there are a couple of downsides. Okay, the continuous glucose monitor system consists also of three parts. So there's a sensor, which is placed about every 10 days, a transmitter that sits on top of the sensor, and then a receiving device. So there's several different companies that put these out. This is the one I personally use. And it's nice because I can use my insulin pump, which I have on me at all times, to be the receiver. And the other nice thing about that is these two companies have actually worked together to create an algorithm where the insulin pump will respond automatically to trends from the continuous glucose monitor. So that means that when I'm sleeping at night, if my blood sugar starts going low, it will automatically suspend any insulin delivery in order to sort of stabilize my blood sugar. And the same thing if my blood sugar is going high. The other nice thing about this device, recently, just in the last few years, the FDA has cleared it to replace finger sticks altogether. So as long as I have this device attached to me, I don't have to do the finger sticks, which is so, so awesome. Some disadvantages, again, it is a piece of equipment, electronic, and is prone to failure, as we all know. And sometimes it's not always accurate. Depending on where you place the site, you could get better or worse readings. So you have to be mindful of those things. All right, so what are some things that all of this technology has allowed me to do? Well, if you've ever seen or heard of Steel Magnolias, I personally have not seen the movie. I think it may be a bit triggering for me, but I understand there's kind of a misrepresentation of what a type 1 diabetic pregnancy looks like. So these devices have actually helped me through 2 very healthy type 1 diabetic pregnancies. As Tony mentioned, I have 2 young kids. So that was a big goal of mine, and I'm so happy I had this technology to help me through those really difficult times. Also scuba diving, it's only recently that certain scuba instructors have allowed type 1s to start getting their certification. I had to look for a specific instructor who was willing to work with me and all of my devices. So, this is something that I wanted to do and was happy that I could finally do it. Extreme physiological environments. So I've taken my pump on aerobatic airplanes and skydiving. I hope to do lots more fun things in the future, but it's really allowed me to do whatever I want to do. And then ultimately, jobs requiring medical clearance. Something Tony didn't mention was that I used to live in Huntsville, and I worked for the Army group out there who tests the helicopters. So part of that was getting an FAA medical clearance, which was difficult at the time. That was about 10 years ago. And it took about 6 months to just get my class 3 medical, which if any of you are pilots out there, is the lowest medical the FAA gives out. So that would basically allow you to be a private pilot. Recently, amazingly, in the past year, the FAA, all of the diabetes organizations have worked together to sort of bring a collective voice to our concerns and have worked with the FAA. The FAA is now granting special clearance class 1 medicals for type 1 diabetics, and it's purely based on using continuous glucose monitoring data that you provide to them over a 6-month period to prove that you can manage your disease. And these devices are enabling this to happen. Ultimately, this led to my dream job. So I now work in mission control, as Tony said, which also requires a medical clearance. Every year I have to get a waiver in order to be on console. And I kind of told my NASA doctor that it's not that different from my job itself. I'm monitoring telemetry that's coming straight from my body alongside the telemetry that's coming from the International Space Station. So it all kind of works together to help me do this dream job in mission control. Something I did want to touch on just a little bit because it has been in the news over the last year or so are just barriers to these treatments. I wish that every type 1 could have these devices and technology because obviously it brings our blood sugars and our management much closer to what a normal person's pancreas and feedback loop would provide them. So obviously, if you have type 1 diabetes, your pancreas doesn't make any insulin. And insulin is required to stay alive. So you've probably heard about insulin being priced pretty high. And I can attest to that being absolutely true. Last year, even with government health insurance through my job at NASA, I was paying $150 every month just for 3 vials of insulin, and that was with insurance. Most insulins are about $300 a vial. So if you need more than 1 per month, you can see where that really starts to add up. If you don't have insurance or if you have sort of lower end insurance. And that's the basic requirement. So after you or if your family pays for insulin, you may not have a lot left over to pay for these technological devices that make life so much easier. So I guess I just would like to share that with you because, these insulin has been sort of tossed around over the past year as statistics, and there are real people behind those statistics struggling just to meet their basic need of getting insulin. And it's led to some really terrible things like insulin rationing and sort of a diabetes black market that happens just to keep our friends with the disease that we didn't cause alive. So hopefully if you don't have diabetes, your body makes insulin for free. So congratulations. But it's just something to keep in mind that is a barrier we still have to overcome, those of us with the disease. that's kind of the end of my presentation. I do have a website where I occasionally blog about my life with diabetes and breaking some of these barriers. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram sharing some little tidbits there. So I hope that this has given you a clearer picture of what the disease is and maybe some places you can research or help us out. So I'd love to hear your questions if you have any for me.
Thank you, April. We do have one question over here from Chris.
Hey there. My
Hi.
sister-in-law has type 1 diabetes. She didn't get it till her 20s, and so she had not learned to manage it when she got pregnant. And she ended up in the hospital a couple times. So when you get a little loopy, you end up on the floor. Is that high blood sugar or low blood sugar?
It actually could be both. I did have a slide about sort of short and long-term effects from high and low blood sugar. It kind of is person dependent. So for me, when I get low, I get shaky, sweaty, my voice starts shaking. Kind of feels like if you have a lot of adrenaline. But when you get high blood sugar, I usually feel tired, really, really thirsty, but again, probably can't put a really great sentence together. So it could be either or.
So I've got a quick question. I think about 18 years ago, there's a couple of us in this room that went to a company in Huntsville that was working on an inhalable insulin. I was just wondering if there's any advances in that technology, I guess.
Yes. So there is an inhalable insulin on the market. It's called Afrezza, I believe. I've never personally tried it, but what they've FDA cleared so far is a small cartridge, and it has about 2 units, which is a pretty small amount of really rapidly fast-acting insulin. So some of my friends have used it, and they say it's great for if you have a high blood sugar that's just not budging. So you're giving insulin and it's not coming down. Doing the inhaled insulin sort of like knocks it down. So it'll start trending down, and then the short acting insulin you have in your insulin pump or via an insulin pen or syringe can kind of pick up then after about 30 minutes. So that's a good way to use it. And I do know several of my friends that are using it.
Any other questions from the group here?
How long has insulin been in production? I mean, it's been, you know, we hear about it and we make the assumption that it's been here forever, but the truth of the matter is, I'm sure sometime in the 50s, maybe?
Yes, so Dr. Frederick Banting actually was the doctor who invented or discovered, I guess, insulin in Canada about 100 years ago. And he actually sold the patent. He was at a research university. He sold the patent to a pharmaceutical company for $1 because he believed everyone should have access to insulin if required. And so the reason that insulin costs remain high is because the pharmaceutical companies are filing patents, just at the right interval to say they've changed the formula just enough to file a new patent in order to not allow any generics into the system. So that kind of gives them the upper hand and keeps insulin costs really high, unfortunately.
So, April, it's Tony.
Hi.
Talk about what's keeping you as a type 1 diabetes from being an astronaut. Why won't they let you fly in space?
Great question. So NASA, if you just think about the astronauts you probably all know or familiar with, they are the top peak physical human condition. They are crazy brilliant and they're in amazing shape. And so NASA they can not have type 1s in their group because they get so many applications and they can literally choose the best of the best, and they don't have to worry about, taking someone with a condition like type 1. So I don't think NASA is ever going to, choose a type 1 diabetic. There's just a lot of unknowns right now with how insulin delivery in space will work. A continuous glucose monitor uses Bluetooth signals, which, sort of that interaction between signals in a space capsule may not be the best idea. How you would deliver an insulin via syringe, which they've done some tests on that on the ISS, not insulin specifically, but other solutions, because in gravity environment, all of the bubbles inside a little vial actually collect together into one big sort of air bubble, but in space, they kind of don't. They sort of just hang out in the solution. So they have to do like a centrifuge in order to gather all the bubbles together before they can actually draw up something into a syringe. So there's lots of unknowns right now, and I'm pretty hopeful that with all of the commercial space industry coming online and private space missions, that there may be some room for people like me, type 1 diabetics, to do some testing at least and see what happens on short duration missions before potentially moving to longer term duration missions.
Okay. Are there any other questions for April? We don't want to keep her too long from her mission. Do we have time for one more question maybe, if April has time?
Yeah.
Any questions on the Zoom side? Okay, if not, please join me in giving a hand to April. Thank you so much.
It's really been an honor to be with you this morning, and I wish you all a great end of your week and weekend. And if you see the space station flying over, it may be me at the helm, so give a wave.
Thank you, April. If you get a chance to speak to the astronauts this morning, tell them good morning from the Rotary Club of Madison.
Oh, I definitely will.
Thank you so much. Okay. We're over here having a discussion about Larry, who is a type 1 diabetic as well. Okay, can you hear me on the Zoom side? I can't quite see you. Is that Alec? Can you give me a thumbs up? I can't see. There we go. Okay. We're going to go ahead and get started with the business side of the meeting. And we only have a couple of things. So as soon as we're done with this, maybe you'll get a couple minutes early. So we'll start with introduction of guests and visiting Rotarians. I think it's mostly family on this side. Do we have any visitors on the Zoom side that I might not be able to see right now? Okay. All Madison Rotarians this morning. Move over to announcements and club business. So we'll hold off on the brag bucks and the brags just a moment. Just reordered this a little bit. So we'll start with just club business. And we'll start with annual dinner. Melissa, was there any updates on annual? I know you gave an update last week. Okay. Okay, so you'll get a sign up genius from Melissa soon, and just so watch your email for that, and just let us know if you plan to attend and if you plan to bring a guest. Parrots of the Caribbean planning continues. So we had a great meeting last week, maybe at Chris's house, a bunch of us. I think we're starting to get some creative juices flowing and really thinking about how we can switch up the event. Hopefully everybody will be as excited as we are, but that event is still being planned. So I don't know if there's any comment right now on where we are on that, except for we're planning something special. Okay. Employee of the Year, I don't know if Debbie's on the Zoom side. She's not a big Zoomer. But Debbie did a great job with the Madison Employee of the Year. Bill Holtzclaw was there. Chris was there. Chris was always there, also there speaking, representing the Visitors Bureau, I think, for Huntsville, right, Chris? But it was, Debbie did a great job. It was very fancy. I was proud to be a Rotarian that morning. If you haven't been to an Employee of the Year event, it's something really special for those employees. Those that have been there know what I'm talking about. So if you get it, every chance to get to go, it's really a proud moment for Madison Rotary, honoring 3 employees, a firefighter, a police officer, and one of the city employees. And I think they feel special and their families feel special. So thank you, Debbie, for organizing that. I do have one piece of business. So part of the strategic plan, let me see if I have it here with me. And I printed it and, oh, here it is. Okay. So part of the strategic plan was trying to kind of fix some things, not fix them with our sunset group. So we're the sunrise group, they're the sunset group. I was trying to kind of make a bond or form some camaraderie. So we said in the strategic plan that we were going to come up with some sort of statement, and we try to live by that statement. Every year it would be revisited just to see what the goals of the 2 groups are. And Chris, who's our incoming president, and Bailey, who's the incoming chair for the Sunset Group, recently met and came up with that joint statement. So another example of how the strategic plan is now getting us in the right direction. That's scheduled to happen in May, and it's May, so they had that meeting. And here's that kind of joint statement. So the statement is to be presented to the club at our next regular meeting, which is this one. And board leadership of both groups will use this language at all times when referring to the 2 groups. So for the 2021-2022 Rotary year, the Rotary Satellite Club of Madison Sunset intends to remain a satellite of Rotary Club of Madison instead of splitting to form an entirely separate club. So over the next year, there's no discussion about splitting. So that'll be revisited every year just to see if anything changes. So for at least the next year, we continue to be one club. A goal for this year is to increase camaraderie, strengthen our culture of service, and increase information exchange between the groups of members who attend at different meeting times. So that's the main gist of it. We just attend at different meeting times. To emphasize that we are all one club, club members are urged to adopt the terminology Sunrise Group and Sunset Group. So that's the way we're going to try to address each other, Sunrise and Sunset. Club members are urged to discontinue referring to a subset of the entire club as a club of its own, specifically discontinue the use of the term satellite club. So we know for official Rotary business, that's the way it has to be in DAC-DB, and that's the way we're recognized through Rotary government business or Rotary business in general protocol. But for ourselves, we'll use Sunrise Group and Sunset Group. We're all one club, and the use of the Sunrise Group and Sunset Group terminology is intended to reduce confusion and increase cohesion. So that's the statement. That's the goal for next year. Thank you, Chris and Bailey, for working on this. So Sunrise Group, Sunset Group. Fred will be listening to find anybody who uses any other term outside of Sunrise and Sunset. Dan's got the con right after Fred. So if he hears Satellite Club and things like that, get ready to get called out on the fine. So, okay. And yes, ma'am. Okay, so Cynthia's just mentioned to sign in. So if you're on the Zoom side today and you come to an in-person side, please sign in. Storage cleanup. John O'Donnell did a great job leading our storage cleanup was it Saturday? This past Saturday. So John led that effort. Eric was there, Cynthia was there, Ron was there, Don was there, Fred was there, DJ showed up for a while. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. But they did a great job, according to Fred, they did a great job cleaning up the storage area. It looks fantastic. So thank you so much to John and the team that led that effort. So I'm going to give Bill a couple minutes up here to talk about some foundation business. Bill, please. You don't have to use that.
No, it's just easier to keep it on and take it off. Just wanted to give you all an update on the club giving so far this year. Total club giving, that's Polio Plus and Paul Harris Society, is $27,032.50. And we got until July 1st to continue that. Polio giving was $4,372.50. When I combine the polio and the annual fund, everybody has given something to the foundation. So we've had a very good year as far as that goes. Just want to mention I'm trying to get some more Paul Harris Society members. It's a commitment of about $1,000 a year and not a month. Whenever, some people do it on a monthly basis. Some people do it on an annual basis. But think about giving. Also, part of that total, the 27,000, was $1,000 came from Bank America. Now, check your companies and see if you don't have matching gifts and matching grant programs, because you might be able to increase what our club is giving by having your company match your contribution. So just check with your companies. A lot of banks do it. A lot of major corporations do it. Just give a check. If you're giving $50 and they match $50, that's great for the foundation, great for our club recognition. That's it for today. Thank you. Actually, the clap should be.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Tim's not here. And while we're speaking about foundation giving, I do have some Paul Harris recognition to present to at least one club member that's here today. So John Allen, if you don't mind coming up. Surprise, surprise. So John Allen is receiving his Paul Harris Foundation +6. So he's given at least $7,000 to the Paul Harris Foundation over the years. And he gets his special recognition today. Let me stand on the box for one of those. All right. All right, I'm just going to pull up a couple of slides, and then we'll move on to whatever it is really here for the card game. You want to take a second to talk about Mount Rainier and the climbing? All right.
Yeah, so a quick update. It was cold on Mount Rainier, but we had a group of about 17 of us. We had six guides. We broke into a group of 9 and a group of 8. And so we pretty much we made it up to the camp at 10,000 feet. And so that's kind of where you camp the night. And then the next morning you get up early and try to head for the summit. But pretty much we were on snow from the parking lot at Paradise all the way up to the top and then all the way back down. And so the weather was not cooperating. So they didn't allow us to go to the summit from 10,000 feet. But so going up, we were pretty much on snow in boots from, I don't know, the parking lot to about 1,300 feet up. And then we put on crampons, and we were on crampons for the rest of the climb all the way up. And winds were 20 to 30 miles an hour. And for the last 30 minutes, I don't think I felt my right hand going up the mountain. So, but it was an incredible experience. And it is a no joke mountain. If you've ever seen Mount Rainier or been on top or tried to do that, as the guide said, it was a true mountaineering experience that our group had, primarily because of the winds, the cold, the fact that we were in snow for so long and ice. But it was a great experience. Had great equipment. Guide service was awesome, and sometimes that happens when you're trying to go up a mountain, and it happened to us. But great group of people, folks from Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, Boston, Oregon, just a great group of people and had a great experience. But it's a no joke mountain. So if you're interested in going up, do a lot of training. So it's a great experience though. Ooh, a lot.
Fred, do you mind just scanning across as I talk? Okay. So the first thing is John's here, so I made it. So that's where I would have started. So you're alive. And the second, what's a crampon? Is that kind of a spikes? Ice. That's what I thought it was. Okay. Fred wanted to know what a crampon was. So this is a picture of the Employee of the Year awards afterwards. Debbie kind of spoke about each of their accomplishments over the year, and each of the employees. Jason Coley, who's on the left-hand side, standing next to the mayor. He's a IT director, I think, for the city of Madison. So he earned Employee of the Year this year for the city of Madison. Then you see Chief Bailey standing next to the Firefighter of the Year, Ken Howard, and then also I think the interim police chief standing next to Shannon DeFazio, who's the police officer of the year. So again, if you ever get a chance to go, Karen was there along with Pat. They did a nice reception for everybody that showed up that day. So again, great experience if you ever get a chance to go. Next slide. Couple of anniversaries. So we have Margie with us. Margie, time flies when you're having fun. So Margie's been with the club now for 1 year tomorrow. So tomorrow is Margie's 1 year anniversary, and Marjorie keeps herself pretty busy. So I think I've mentioned this. So Marjorie builds a lot of wheelchair ramps for Rotary, well, really for people on behalf of Rotary, on behalf of our club. She works with the Greater Huntsville Club, which her mom is a member of, our incoming or future district governor, Mary Grace Evans. So Tom Lemieux and Bob Barnes are on that. Cynthia gets that makeup list every week, and they build a lot of wheelchair ramps. So I think they're pretty much our club expert wheelchair ramp builders. Okay, and then a couple of wedding anniversaries. I don't know if Bill's with us today. I didn't see him on the Zoom side, but he might be. But Pam and Bill will be celebrating 36 years on the 18th. So congratulations, Bill and Pam, and Chief Bailey and his wife Catherine. 31 years on the 19th. So congratulations, Chief Bailey. And next slide. We've had some great speakers. Today was no exception, another great speaker today. Texting my pancreas. I loved how she used like text messages for the PowerPoint. Sunset Group, I don't want to find myself. Let me make sure I use the right terminology. Sunset Group will be meeting on the 18th in case anybody wants to join them at OBB. Our next speaker will be the Huntsville Science Festival. Somebody's a director of that speaking. I think Mark helped organize them. And then on the 27th, that's an exciting one, From Rock to Rockets. So there's a band member of 9 Inch Nails, a band. I think they're inducted into the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But he's also an adjunct professor at Calhoun, and he lives here in Madison. So from 9 Inch Nails, so he'll be here on the 27th. Talking about From Rock to Rockets. So, and I think that's all I have on my side. Does anybody have any other club business before we move on to fines and brag bucks and then the card game? Anything anybody wants to mention? You can stop the share, Fred, please. Anything on this side? No. And then anything on the Zoom side while Fred stops sharing the screen over here? Yeah, we're gonna move over to the left. Okay, go ahead, Fred, take it away.
Wow. On mine is area over here.
I'm just celebrating today my grandmother's 94th birthday and my son's 26th birthday.
Run. Did you forget your pen or something? Okay. deal.
I would really like to brag on the people that helped clean out the shed. We turned a 2-hour project into 5, and you won't believe what it looks like now. Yes, we hauled away 5 truckloads. We still have 3 more to go, and then it'll be clean.
John and I are going right after this meeting to get some more of that. I don't think we need any help. Do we? Okay. Anything else, guys? Okay. Oh, whoa.
My oldest graduated kindergarten 2 days ago, so.
Going back and forth like a tennis ball.
I was a few minutes late, so that's that dollar. But this one was for this past weekend. Monica and I went down to Mobile for our youngest college graduation. She graduated from the University of South Alabama. So finally done.
Speech and audio. We could always do that. All right. I think that'll wrap that up. Huh? Okay, we got 4 cards left. Let's see. Shake this up. Shake, shake, shake. Not as many as last year. The chances are really good for somebody today. 1 out of 4. Chances that she can read good. Jessica, shake it up a little bit. Good. Okay, here we go. Here's the reading.
I don't have my glasses. Okay. Which one? The last one?
3974H.
Yeah.
Okay.
3974H.
Okay, up and coming Sergeant at Arms, Secretary Socrates. Okay, drum roll, everybody come with just a few cards.
Long drum.
Okay, here we go. All right.
Dan feeling lucky.
What's it up to?
Way over 1,000. Way over 1,000.
Joker. Oh, I won't put it back. I put it back in the other. I gotta have 3 cards left.
So in case you didn't catch it on the Zoom side, the card game continues. It was an 8. So I think there's 3 cards in the deck now, Fred. Is that right? Three cards in the deck. So chance are probably up to maybe $1,200. I don't know if Bob's there. It continues to go up. So that's all I have this morning. Does anybody have anything else before we close the meeting? Anything on the Zoom side? Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and stand for the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, second, third, and fourth will be beneficial to all concerned. Okay. Enjoy your day. Thank you all.